So Pip, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Pip Hare and I am the skipper of Medalia.
First of all, we see that your face is a little bit red. Tell us about your night on your boat. It seems that you hurt yourself.
I left my home port of Poole in the UK on Monday for a little training before coming to the race village in Les Sables. And while I was training, I fell and I hit my nose and I cut the top of my eye. But it's better to do it now than during the race, I think.
So, beginning of your life, tell us about your discovery of sailing.
I always had sailing in my life because my grandfather was a sailor. I didn't grow up anywhere near the water though. I grew up in a town in the centre of the UK, and there was no sailing culture where I grew up. But my grandfather had a boat on a river on the east coast, and so when I was a very small baby, we used to go and visit him and go out on the boat. And my parents then had a boat, and we used to go on family holidays together. But for me, it was not sailing, it was more about adventure. It was about jumping into the water, it was swimming to the shore and building a den and all of those things. I only really discovered sailing as a sport when I was a teenager, I think.
But very early, you decided to make sea and sailing a big thing in your life. It was not a question about offshore sailing but or racing, but you want to be a sailor.
Yes, I decided when I was 17 years old that I wanted to be a professional sailor, because I think I just really liked the idea of freedom and adventure, and also the agency that sailing gave me. Sailing allowed me to operate in a way that I couldn't as a teenager. You know, it allowed me to make decisions, it allowed me to drive a boat, it allowed me to take risks in a way that I couldn't in everyday life. And so it really appealed to me, and I decided I wanted to make a career out of sailing.
So how you make to be a sailor? First part of this experience was a lot of travel, New Zealand, for example.
Yes, yeah, it was difficult and it was scary. I left my hometown and I went to the south coast of the UK to find an apprenticeship to become a skipper, and I knew no one. There was no one to tell me how to do it. I just had to go and make it up as I went along. And then I wanted to experience all the different types of sailing jobs that there were. So I travelled out to the Caribbean and I found a job on a super yacht. And then I travelled to New Zealand and I worked at an outdoor education centre, and then I worked on racing charters. So early in my life, I travelled all over the world and I had many, many jobs in sailing to kind of gain experience and to understand the industry as well.
And how the sport begin to be a dream for you?
I'd always been interested in ocean racing because when I first found out about races like the Whitbread, I was still at school. I was 16, 17 years old, and I started to read lots of books about it. And I just thought, to race around the world, it's the greatest racetrack there can be. There's no bigger racetrack. And so that really appealed to me because it was the kind of the toughest race you could have. And then I started to understand about solo ocean racing. I read about the BOC Challenge, and that really inspired me because it took the world's biggest racetrack and then to do that alone. And then from that, there was the Vendée Globe, to do it non-stop. It just seemed to me like this is the furthest a human being could push themselves in the sport of sailing. It really appealed.
And I think that Isabelle Autissier was a key for you to realize that a woman can be a sailor in offshore sailing.
Yeah, she really was. Isabelle Autissier And until I read about Isabelle Autissier, all of the books, all the magazines that I read, they were all about men. All of the sailors are men. The sailors in the Whitbread were all men, and they were still my heroes. I still aspired to be like them. But I read about Isabelle Autissier in the BOC Challenge, and there was no concession. She was just a sailor, and she was being respected in the same way that the male sailors were, and she was competing properly on equal terms. And that was all I needed. I just needed to see that one woman was doing it, so I could do it too.
And at this time, what were the pictures that you have from the Vendée Globe?
So I guess it still seemed quite far away, the Vendée Globe, but I recognised immediately that it was the toughest race in the world, and I decided at 17 years old, I decided I wanted to do it.
And what stories or what skippers have you in mind when you think to Vendée Globe early stage?
I guess when I think about the early stages, so in the UK, really the first skipper that kind of that came to the public eye was Pete Goss. Because he went out and he did the race, but also his rescue of Raphael Dinelli was big news in the UK, and it kind of really brought the race to life. I knew about it already, but he was pushing the frontiers all the time, Pete Goss, and bringing the sport into the public domain. So obviously, he was relevant. And then, of course, Ellen MacArthur in the UK, she just sailed such an incredible race, and to come second in the year 2000, that was trailblazing, and she went on to do, incredible things after that. And then I think the next race I remember really was 2008, because in 2008 there were a lot of British skippers. I think it was the most British skippers ever. So yeah, just kind of all the way through, I was always watching from afar. I never wanted to be like anyone. I just wanted to be me. But I was watching the progress of other British sailors, trying to understand how they made it happen. How did they get there? And then to make my own path.
Is it true that you realize that it will be possible for you, solo sailor, when you realize that you can manage your boat alone because of sickness of your husband, no?
That's right, yes. Yeah, I think I'd done, by the time I'd got to the age of 30, I'd done a lot of ocean miles with crew, and I'd done a lot of racing, but never solo racing. And I didn't know how to make it happen. I had no idea. And I ended up living on my boat and travelling a lot with my ex-partner, and he was very seasick. So I did have to manage the boat a lot on my own, everything. The maintenance, the navigation, all of those things. And I did realise then that I was pretty much doing it on my own anyway. So why not make the leap?
And tell us about the road to the first Vendée Globe.
I didn't actually start solo ocean racing until 2009. And the reason is because there is no entry level in the UK. There's no way to start the sport in the UK. There's no one to help you. There's no one to show you. There's no community. And so I realised at 35 I had to make it happen myself. I had to make my own path. And so I started with the All-Star, which I sailed in the boat that was my home. It was a 39-foot racer cruiser. And then after the All-Star, I confirmed, it was the first ever solo race, and I confirmed to myself that I loved it, but also that I was good at it. And so then I decided what was the next step. I wanted more competition, I wanted to learn more, I wanted to train more. And the next step had to be to come to France. And so I sold my 39-foot home and I bought a 21-foot Mini. And then I came to France and I trained at Le Grand Mont. And I did the Mini Transat in 2011. And then I trained with Lorient Grand Large. And then did the Mini Transat in 2013. And then it became difficult because I couldn't afford, the next boat maybe was a class 40 or something like that. There's no way I could afford a boat like that. And so I started to sail with other people on their campaigns to do double-handed class 40. But it was difficult because it was never my boat, it was never my campaign. And so I was always making compromises on performance. And I didn't really like that. I knew I wanted, ultimately I knew I really still wanted to compete in the Vendée Globe, but the sponsorship to find a boat, the money is crazy. It's so much. And then in 2018, I discovered that Superbigou, the famous Superbigou, sat in Lorient and it was not being used because the guy who chartered it hadn't managed to bring in the sponsors for his programme. So I contacted the owner and I said, what's the charter fee? And he said it was €2,000 per month, which is really, really cheap for an IMOCA. But the boat was ruined. The boat was in a terrible state. And he said, it's €2,000 per month, but you must do all the maintenance. You must do all of the upgrades. And I thought, this is my only chance. I was 45 then, I think, and 44. In 2018, I was 44. And I thought, this is my only chance. This is the only way I can do this. So I took a bank loan for £25,000 and I started a crowd fund. And initially that was enough to charter the boat for 3 months to get my IMOCA class certificate and to bring the boat back to the UK. And I did all of that. And then every month I worked out how much money I needed to raise. I did fundraising, I fixed the boat myself, and I went and learned how to sail it because I'd never sailed an IMOCA before. And in 2019, that was my year. Every month in 2019, I had to raise enough money to do the qualification races, to fix my boat, to buy something new maybe. And I did it all alone, supported by friends. And then as my campaign grew, volunteers came from social media to help me. And I finished 3 qualification races in 2019 on a budget of £150,000. And I was never last. But I still didn't have a sponsor. It was really hard. I've never worked so hard in my life, ever. And in 2020, we had COVID. I still didn't have a sponsor. And I knew I needed to do a really big refit on the boat or it wouldn't make it around the world. And then in June 2020, Medalia signed as my title sponsor. So we had 2 months to make a refit. And then it was the Vendée Globe.
And the race was nice, cool, I don't know the term exactly, but yeah, you was the revelation of the race for a lot of people. How you feel with that now?
Oh, the race was amazing. And I'm so happy it was, because when you've dreamed of something since you were 17, when I finished that race, I was 47 years old. It had been 30 years of my life I had been dreaming of it. And it's a really big risk when you do something, when you've been dreaming of something for that long and then you do it. There's a really big risk that it might not be what you thought it was. And it was better. It was so good. And I pushed hard and I sailed a good race. I know I did. I knew I wanted to do a second one straight away because it was so good. And I wanted it to be better. And it has been. You know, everything's so different now. I have a team now. I've had the full 3.5 years to prepare. And it feels different. I know this race will be different. I feel maybe a different pressure now, because before nobody knew who I was and nobody cared. So now it's a bit different.
So what's your main goal for this one?
So I think it's really important with this race in particular, it's really important to have more than one goal. Really important. You must be able to define success in multiple ways, because if your success is only a position in classification at the end of the race, then, you know, if you don't make that, you cannot walk away from this thinking that you didn't succeed, because it's been a big project. There's been so much that's gone into it. So from a performance perspective, then my goal is top 10. But underneath that, my goal is to finish. Even if the boat is damaged, my goal is to finish. And then underneath that, again, it's to tell the story well, to let people see what it's really like, to help people to understand how we manage, all of us, alone for months in challenging conditions on crazy boats, to tell a good story, a fun story, but also a story that will relate to people who are not sailors, to talk about the human being.
And how you manage your loneliness, for example?
Yes, exactly, yes. I think when I come to the shore and when I do talks, when I meet people, the questions they ask me are never, you know, why did you choose a J0 instead of a Jenica? You know, they never want to know, how many reefs did you have in at this point? They want to know, how is it to be alone? Do you feel lonely? How do you manage when you're scared? You know, how do you manage on such little sleep? They want to know about the human elements of it. And the sailing is just the backdrop. The sailing is the spectacle.
And tell us about your boat now. It's a new boat for you. You work a lot since 3 years to refit this boat. Where are you on your schedule?
We have an incredible boat now. It's a great boat, and it holds the current course record because it was originally Banque Populaire in 2016 and it won the race then and holds the course record. We bought it in May 2021 from Louis Burton. And in 2022, I set up my team, a new team, and I learned to sail on small foils. In 2023, we did a major refit and we put big foils into the boat because I understood that if you want performance with a foiling boat, they have to be big foils. And then this year, I've been learning how to sail on big foils. We've worked a lot. We've worked really hard on developing the boat, on making it robust and fast. And I think we've done a good job. I would have loved another 6 months, but I don't think there's a single team on the dock that wouldn't take another 6 months.
And I heard that you have some technical issue with electronics.
Yes, the last month has been quite stressful because We've had no problems with electronics for 3 years, and in the last month we had a lot of problems. And it's not a good feeling to go into this race with that uncertainty. You know, you need those systems to work. So it's a little bit stressful at the moment.
Do you have time to fix it? Or?
We have to make time. We don't have a choice. We must fix it.
Can you describe to us feelings sailing with a foiler now?
Sailing with foils is just taking all the energy and the adrenaline from normal sailing and multiplying it by 5,000. It's loud and it's visceral, and you can feel the boat and the vibrations. Sometimes the noise is, the movement is very erratic, so you can be thrown around the boat a lot. You feel all of this energy, and you look behind the boat, and sometimes it's really hard to comprehend the speeds that you're traveling at. It is frightening in a way, or not frightening, maybe it's just, it makes anxiety. You know, you're worried all the time. You're worried because the boat, when it crashes down, it sounds like it's going to split apart. You're worried because you feel the tension, but at the same time, the speed is addictive. When you see how many miles you do in 5 hours, in 10 hours, it's incredible. Yeah, I mean, I think I love it and I hate it all at the same time.
And the fly?
Flying is when the boat takes off completely. You know, some of the time you're kind of half flying, and so the bow is out of the water and the stern is in the water and it's tapping on the water. And then you get to a balance where the whole boat lifts out of the water, and that's the most incredible feeling. It is amazing. It's perfection.
And how will you see you in the fleet in sport terms? How you will manage the big race that we will see, because there's a lot of teams who want to win, and it's the first time that there are so many of skippers able to win. How you see you in this fleet of foilers?
In terms of the rest of the fleet, you know, I'm still quite junior. I have less experience. We have less budget, a lot less budget than many of the teams, and also being a team based. I'm the only team that is not based in France, and so it's difficult to make the performance progression when you're in isolation like that. And I've missed being with the other teams. So I think I'm realistic, boat on boat. I'm still quite kind of junior in my learning process with the foils. But over time, I know I will get better. And I also know that the longer races suit me well because I have a good resilience, I have a good endurance, and I'm good at problem solving. But I mean, this race is going to be so exciting. I don't think anybody can write the story now. Nobody can. It's going to be close. It's going to be intense. I have so much respect for the skippers who are on the course. It's a real honour. You know, sometimes I find myself next to these people and I think they're amazing. And it's like, wow, it's an honour to be on the course with these people. It's an honour to be racing against them. We just have to see.
And on the route, which part of the sailing you attend? Which part make a lot of excitation for you?
The Southern Ocean, of course, is is the big deal, I think. And I'm really aware that there are a number of skippers who did the Southern Ocean leg in the ocean race. And I think they have such a good advantage because they've already done the Southern Ocean in a big foil boat. They've pushed, they know what the limits feel like, they know what to expect. For me, I just don't know. It's only my second time in the Southern Ocean. It's going to be different to the last time. And I don't know what it feels like to sail my boat fast with those foils in the south. I have to learn. But I'm most anxious, I think, about that part of the course.
Is it fear? Or?
I'm not frightened, no. I think, no, I'm not frightened. I'm anxious about it because I don't want to make a mistake, but also because I want to be able to sail fast. I don't want to be sailing slow because I'm worried. I guess I feel pressure because I want, it's such an important part of the race and I want to deliver it well, and I can't imagine what it's like right now.
And speak about the relationship between skippers in this part of the world. I heard that in the last race you had a chat on WhatsApp with the women. Was very cool.
Yeah, we had our own little women's group in the last race, and I have other skippers out there on the track who I talk to every now and again. But I think, yeah, we're the only people that can possibly imagine what it's like. With the only, if you're having a difficult time or you just want to make contact with someone who really understands, there are only 39 other people out there that can possibly imagine what it's like. And so even if you don't know somebody very well, and for me, obviously, because I'm based in the UK, I don't know many of these skippers very well. But I would never be shy to contact them when I was out there, and I would always respond to anybody who contacted me because we're experiencing something so unique, and if anybody needs support, then we have to give it to each other.
And about the women's solidarity that you had
in the last race.
Yeah, and in the next.
I don't think there is such a kind of. One of the things that I love about a race like the Vendée Globe is that men and women race on equal terms. And for me, that is the most important thing. I'm a sailor, and I'm seen as a sailor by everybody else. And so actually kind of, I don't feel like there's a separate kind of gang with the women. I feel like we're all together.
And tell us about now the village and the 3 weeks before the start.
Again, I don't really know what to expect because the last race start was COVID. So I remember the race village opening, but obviously there were different rules, and then the village closed. And this time it's going to be different. It will be more distracting, I think, because I know there are going to be a lot of people and there's a lot happening. But the thing that's different this time is that my friends and family will be there. Last time they were not there. I was entirely alone. And so this time they'll be there. And lots of people are coming from the UK. The ferries on Friday night are booked. There are no spaces on the ferries. There are so many people coming, which is incredible. It's just brilliant. And every day I get more and more messages from people saying, yeah, we're coming to the village, we're coming to visit. And it's really exciting and special for me to be able to share this properly in a way that we didn't get last time. But also I'm a little bit worried about how I'm going to be able to focus before the start because it's very distracting.
Which solution you find?
I don't have a solution.
What will be a good Vendée Globe for you?
Finishing the Vendée Globe would be good for me, and I have the same principle I had in the last race, and that is that I want to walk away from this race knowing that I took advantage of every opportunity. I want to walk away from it understanding that I will make mistakes, but not ever having been lazy or not made the most of what I have. I want to make sure that I take time to enjoy what I'm doing. I want to make sure that I push hard, that I keep trying, that even if I make mistakes, I keep trying to make it better. I keep learning. And then whatever the classification is at the end, at least I know I tried. That's what's important.
Is it your last Vendée Globe?
I don't think I can tell you that right now.
So have good days. Thank you.